Hello, and welcome to the Stitched by podcast, the podcast that focuses on the crafters, creators, and pattern makers within the sewing, knitting, and crochet communities. In each episode, you will hear from someone you know and love, or someone new. I'm your host, Ari, at Stitched by Ari, and today's guest is Brandon at Happily Dressed. Brandon is the founder of Happily Dressed, a vibrant sewing and fashion brand rooted in self expression and confidence. Based in Atlanta, he empowers beginners and seasoned makers alike with tutorials, resources, and uplifting content. Through Happily Dressed, Brandon is building a creative community where style is self made and joyfully worn. Brandon, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, so
Hi.
happy to be here.
Likewise, I'm so happy to have you join. I've been, following you for a little while, and I've been really excited to talk to you because I'm both impressed and inspired by all that you've accomplished in such a
Thank
short period of
you.
time.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. It's always cool seeing you're a fellow Black person doing it and doing it big.
Come on. That's
And
what's
I love it. So I just want to learn more about you and just get into some questions that we have today. Everyone begins their creative journeys at different points in their lives. For a lot of creatives, we start when we are young. I remember being creative since I was like 5 years old, but our direction with it matures at different points. So, when you say you first knew you were a creative person, and at what point did Happily Dressed come into the mix?
So I probably, like you said, at a very young age, like probably like maybe 6 or 7. I just remember I was like in a church, like what was it, like a youth group thing, very young, and it was like a dance team, all this other stuff. And they were like, "Oh, Brandon, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And I was like, "I want to be an inventor. Like I just want to invent things. Like I really want." And I think at the time I didn't have the articulation to express that. I just really wanted to be able to create the ideas in my head. And from there, it kind of trickled into so many other aspects. It was like inventor. Then for a little bit, literally a short era of my life, it was like, I want to be a choreographer. Like I loved creating dances with my siblings. And that was really fun. And then that was short lived though, because next it was like, I want to be a graphic designer. Like I love like putting things like together, like in a poster or a business card, things like that. And then slowly but surely, I just realized that creativity is kind of like the medium through which I wanted to express and like choosing different things, whether it was like graphic design, photography, because I actually sewed, or excuse me, I was a photographer before I started sewing for like 2.5 years. So like I worked for Urban Outfitters, both at a local level and at the home office, which is really cool. Getting to shoot stuff for like the national campaigns, the national Instagram. And photography is kind of where I really fell in love with being a creative because it's also one of those careers where especially I say back in my day, I'm like a zillennial. I'm not that old. I'm only 28. I turned 29, July 10th, everyone. But I was really like, oh, I love this career. It's something that is kind of like not gone into professionally often just because the money, isn't always there. But it's where I learned like being a creative was what I wanted to do. And then after that, Happily Dressed came into the mix. Happily Dressed has always been in the mix. Also, just a side note for everyone
Mhm.
listening, I am a tangent person. Like I go on like 3 tangents before I get to the answer of the question, but I will try my best not to do that in this moment. But um Happily Dressed has always been in the mix because when I was in college, I started Happily Dressed as like a fashion brand. So I was still taking photos as a photographer, but sometimes I would go and shoot myself in like an outfit. This is before I was even sewing too. So I would just thrift a lot of my wardrobe and like I loved how I put things together. And so I wrote pieces on how the clothes I was wearing made me feel more like myself. And even the journey of like thrifting these clothes instead of buying them from a store where someone can buy that same shirt 100 times, but like going out and finding pieces that are unique to you and how you want to exist was really such a catalyst to the mindset and the ethos behind Happily Dressed on like how when you take the time to self reflect and have these outward activities like thrifting or like photography or whatever outlet you have to really explore how you want to exist in this world. They're just so cool and they make you happily dressed with clothes or like not only in your clothes, but also in your mindset. So yeah, I think Happily Dressed really kind of like reared its head around my freshman year of college, but really cemented last year or the year before last. Oh my God, that's so crazy. The year before last, December of 2023, I think. Yeah, December of 2023 is when Happily Dressed became truly the like pattern brand that it is now.
Wow. Okay, so a very creative journey.
Yeah, yeah.
I can really relate to that because since I was a kid, I'm like, I want to try this, I want to try that, I want to try this. You know, I was like, oh, I want to be a fashion designer, I want to be a photographer, I want to be a cook, I want to be all these different things. I feel like that's a pretty common experience for a lot of creative people. You know, we
Yeah.
kind of try a bunch of different things before we kind of settle in like what feels most like me. Um, Also, it's so cool that you were a photographer like professionally for a while. That's amazing.
It was really a lot of my confidence came from that career choice because
Mm,
it is one that is super hard to like get into and like stay in, especially through like the urban I was working at, like at the local level. I applied for the internship for the home office, and I remember my district manager was like, a lot of great people submit. So like I'm very proud that you're submitting, but just I want to make sure I'm like something expectations, whatever the saying is. But she's like, a lot of great people submit. And I love that. Like I love when people don't think I got the chutzpah to go
yes.
all the way. I think that like that's just even more motivating for me. So then
Mm,
once I got it, I was like the first person in my region of stores to ever even go to home office. And I
mhm.
get up there and just had the time of my life, and it
Wow.
was it was really amazing.
That is so awesome. And it's also cool that like they were telling you, hey, like don't get your hopes up because we don't know if it's gonna be you. And you
Yeah.
were like, I got this. And you did it.
Yeah, if it's for me, it's for me, and I really feel
Mm.
passionate about this, so we'll see what happens.
I love that. If it's for me, it's for me. That's
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so you said that Happily Dressed has been a part of the mix for a while, but it recently became like you started doing patterns with it instead of
Yes.
just being like just a brand that you had. So can you talk about how long you've been sewing? And can you also describe the moment that you knew you wanted to take Happily Dressed and make it like a pattern making and designing goal?
Yes, so I have been sewing since 2018. So I bought a sewing machine December of 2017, but didn't start using it until January. Like I think I bought it as like a Christmas gift to myself or something. And oh, actually, this is no one cares, but the exact date I bought it was November 15th, 2017, because I looked it up
Mm.
a while ago, and it's so funny because that is also the same birthday as my ex.
Like,
So it
I'm
stuck out to
changing my
me.
life.
Yeah, so I was like, so it stuck out to me. So I was like, oh, there we go. That makes sense now. Okay, so yeah,
Mm.
I bought a sewing machine November 15th, 2017, but didn't start using it until January of that next year. And it was such a journey. Like I remember store patterns are really confusing to me. And that's another thing that I think pushed me into indie pattern making,
Mm.
whether I knew it or not, even all the way back then. But I went and bought a store pattern because I remember in preparation for buying the sewing machine, I was like, I'm going to go to Joann and buy some patterns. So I bought a beginner friendly bag pattern. I bought a beginner friendly shirt. And I remember when the machine came in, I opened those patterns up. I said, what
This.
is this? What is beginner friendly about this? So like I'm really trying to digest it. So I have the brown paper open, I have the instructions, and I'm just like, absolutely not. Like I bought it, I balled it all up and I threw it away. I was like, that was a waste of $18 because I am not doing that. And then I realized I was like, you know what, Brandon, sewing is just shapes. Let's take it back to
Mm.
elementary school. Let's do a pillowcase. So I went back to the fabric store, avoided the pattern section, but went straight to the fabric section and just bought some like pillowcase fabric. It's probably like a satin or something. I went home and I just made two rectangles and a little flap. I said, boom, there we go. Confidence back. And then I remember right after that, I thought I was like ready. So I took this jacket that a friend gave me that I never wore and I tried to make it into a bag. And that project took me to like hell and back in like 8 hours, like between days too. Like I was working on it from like 6 p.m. one day till like 3 p.m. the next day, just like trying to figure it out. And after that, I stopped sewing for like 3 months. I was like, yeah, no more. I'm
You're like,
good
this
on
this
that.
is hard.
Yeah, so I'm good on that. Like, I will never do that again. That was not fun. And slowly but surely, sewing has always found its way back to me. So yeah, I
Mm,
started sewing in 2018, technically, and
mhm.
then what was your what was the next thing?
I love it. When did you figure out that it was, like, something that you wanted to take into pattern making and designing?
Yes, yes. That wasn't until way later. It was 2022 actually.
Mm.
Um, was it 2022? My memory is so bad. It was either 2022 or the beginning of 2023. But I remember I had taken Victoria's pattern making course that I feel
Mhm,
like a lot of people in the indie pattern making space at least know of, whether they took it or
mhm,
not. And it was a 3-month course, and I remember it took a while for it to truly digest. So I think it was 2023. But I remember just being like, I've always loved self drafting. Like,
mhm.
drafting is my favorite part of the sewing experience. Like, I mean, between being done, but I love, I love drafting a pattern, like, because it's supposed to work out. Like in the 2D, it's
Mhm.
great. It's only when you try to move it to the 3D that you're like, ooh, okay, I need to fix this and to change this.
Yes.
But the drafting part, I think, is just so cool. Like, I think that's
Mm,
where I really get to be creative. And so
mm,
I just knew I wanted more education on drafting and self drafting and just something to help legitimize my own creative process because at the time in 2022 I was just like, I'm drafting all these patterns but I don't know if they're right. Like, yes, they
mm,
fit me, but I didn't really have like a voice in the back of my head being like, yes, this is great because of like schooling or a certificate, etc. So taking that course really did allow me to not only still play creatively but have the like foundation of pattern making truly of like, okay, I know that I can't move this that much anymore because it'll like take away from um X, Y, and Z, who knows. But it was just, I think, such a cool experience for me. And I was doing that while working full time. And
mm.
it took maybe like 3 to 4 months after that course was over for me to even really digest all that information and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be a pattern maker. I'm excited. Let's go. But it wasn't until like, yeah, 2023 that I really decided that I wanted Happily Dressed to be or to also be a pattern making company.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. Honestly, it's so interesting hearing you share, like, your story and, like, how you started and everything, because our stories are actually really similar. I
Really?
also started in 2018. It's funny because I actually started embroidering first, and I was like, "Sewing is too scary. Sewing machines are scary. I'm not
Yeah.
touching that thing." And then I started in 2018, and the first thing I made was also a pillowcase.
Look at that.
Shout out the
Come
pillowcase.
on. I still had it too. I still had it until like 2023, actually. I think it's when I finally threw that card
Wow, you're
away.
like,
I
"Okay,
had
it's
it for
time
a
to move
while.
on."
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's really cool, your entire journey and how taking the course kind of solidified, this passion that you have just around clothing and fashion in general, and it just allowed you to create something really amazing, and it's really cool what you're doing. It's cool that you've put out the patterns that you have and, that you're starting another brand, which we'll get to in a moment, but so, okay, you've been running your brand Happily Dressed for a year and a half now. What did you first, like you said, you've had the brand in the mix for about 10 years now. What did you first envision the brand to be? And is it going in that direction or is it different than what you first thought?
So just like you and the idea of like having multiple things you want to do, originally, like I've always wanted to be in like in my advice columnist bag. Like I've always wanted to like answer questions, push my glasses up, type on my computer. And so when I first started Happily Dressed, I think I really wanted it to just be like a blog space where I could
Mm,
just write about all things self-acceptance, self-confidence, self-sufficiency, and like just how they relate to how I live my life, and like even get not only giving advice, but like allowing other people to tell their stories. So it's funny because Happily Dressed is not that right now. I mean, I think it is a um place where people can be inspired to be more themselves, definitely. And it is still a place where I think visually write out how I feel, whether it's the reels or the patterns that I make. But when I first started Happily Dressed, 10 years ago now, I was a freshman in college and it was just more of a blog to show off my outfits that I thrifted and how they connected to just how I cared for myself.
Mm.
But I will say I do love what it is now. Like I could have never imagined back then that I would be sewing my own clothes. Like the fact that 80% of my wardrobe, if not truly, if not like 95, I'm trying to be humble. Like 80% of my wardrobe is self-made. It's
Wow.
crazy. Like every time I
Mhm.
put on an outfit, I had a part in making it what it is, whether it's the silhouette, the fabric choice, sometimes all of the above. It's so cool. And I think the more we do that, like even with like knitting, because I think that knitting is crazy. Like I'm like, nope, I cannot touch that. Like I already have a skill that takes up all my time. I cannot add another one. But like seeing you and what you make, and even your first million view reel, which I will say you got to faster than I did. It took me like 4 or 5 years to get a million view reel. But when I saw that, I was like, that is what I'm talking about.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, like just seeing people thrive in their creative element, I think it's the gift that keeps on giving because you're living your truth, but you're also
Mm.
showing other people just how accessible your own truth is, which is very beautiful. So I love that Happily Dressed is kind of turned into that kind of ecosystem.
Yeah, I really like your energy about it. I'm so glad that you chose to put happily in front of the dress because that
Yes.
really shines through very well.
Yes, and it's crazy too because I don't know if you saw like for the 10-year anniversary, I released. Oh my god, it sounds like a movie. But I went back to like because I was on YouTube back then, like blogging my whole college experience, and
Mhm.
I found a video where I had first. Many people didn't know this before I posted this, but it was dressed happily at first. Like I remember buying the
Mm,
domain, it was
mhm.
just dressed happily. I was like, there we go, love it. And I went and like walked around my college campus, did college things. I came back. I was like, dressed happily, happily dressed.
Mm.
Happily dressed.
Mhm.
I wasted my money, so I had to go rebuy a new domain for happily dressed because I already had dressed happily. But no, happily dressed has been like I am very happy that it found me and has been a
Yeah.
part of my life for so long and will continue to. I know that.
I love that way that you're describing it, like it found you. And I think it's also really, it says a lot about a person that like they can start with something and then realize, this isn't quite right. This
Yeah.
isn't quite what I want it to be. And like having the, I don't know if mental acuity is like the right way to say it, but like having like the capacity to be like, no, actually it should be different
Yeah.
and being able to change that. I think sometimes we get like a bit of a tangent as well. I feel like sometimes we get stuck in like cost, what is it? Time sunk fallacy or
Yeah.
cost sunk fallacy, or we're like, oh, because it's not immediately doing the thing I want it to do. Either it is just simply a name for your brand or something a lot deeper, like maybe you're working on a pattern and it's not quite working out, or we're like, oh, I just shouldn't do that thing.
Yeah.
But it seems like you continue to like push forward with the things that you want, even if like maybe at first you're not sure.
Yeah, because it's not always easy. Like even the half pint harness almost did not come out. It's been my highest. That's not true. The Ranger Jane is my highest selling pattern, which was my first, which I love. Um, but the half pint harness was the one that kind of just took off. Like
Mm,
that reel is also my million view reel. It's at 3 million now, but
wow.
and it brought in the most money in its first month that any of my patterns ever have. But I almost didn't make it because I
Mm,
remember my friend always tells me my best friend. Sorry, I'm like, how do I describe her? People don't know who she is. My best friend once told me that like one of my biggest flaws is I have black and white thinking. I'm like, okay,
mm,
this is gonna be my patterns for to sell. These are gonna be the things I do just for me. And the half
mhm,
pint harness was actually something I had made just for me to attend Atlanta's Frog Tales back in 2023, I think.
mhm.
And people saw it and were like, "Oh my god!" I think it was 2024. Sorry, but they're like, "Oh my god, I love this! Like, I want it. Are you gonna release the pattern? Are you gonna release the pattern?" I was like, "Hell no! I'm not gonna release the pattern. That was for me. That was for me to have fun, and I don't want to do the work that it takes to make it also accessible for you. I
Mhm.
have patterns already in line for you. Just wait." And I remember my ex at the time was like, "I mean, is it easy to make?" I'm like, "That's not the point." He kept me like, well, is it easy to make? I'm like, well, it is. He was like, well, you should just try. And I remember when I put it out, I was like, damn, I'm so glad I'm so glad I listened to everyone and put that thing out because it literally was like one of my most successful from the start patterns that I've ever released, which is crazy.
Mm,
So it isn't always easy. And sometimes I do need to be forced to listen to that. But I'm always happy that I'm open, even if it's not like, even if it's just like a crack. If you keep pushing, I'm
mhm.
like, okay, we can make it happen.
I love that. I also love that it was something that you did for you
Yeah.
and it happened to be something people really wanted. So it's like you made it out of joy for yourself and then it became something that you're like, okay, I guess I'll put it out.
Yeah.
And you said that it was like your highest selling in the first time period. Yeah.
Yes. And I was like, God is good. It's crazy when you just like listen to what's in front of you. Like even this shirt, it's called the Varsity Tee. It is not out yet. I really want it to be out soon, but the Varsity Tee has been in the works since this time last year. But
Mm,
it's just so I get so I guess territorial isn't the best word, but I love this shirt so much. I know my audience also loves it so much. I'm like, it's mine. But I'm ready. I just have to do some last minute stuff, but it will be released. But even this shirt, I'm like, I love it when the things that just do so well. And I've had to workshop this shirt for a whole year, which is so
mhm.
cool. None of my
Yeah.
patterns have been tested that long in my own wardrobe. So it's been really cool to like sit with something that hasn't been released to the public and like tweak it here and there and also just be like, oh, it's done. Like now it's just up to me to like push it over the finish line because I love this
Mhm.
shirt. But that's another one of those examples of like something being just for me that will eventually go out to the public.
That's great. I think that, a lot of times people don't realize how much work actually goes into a pattern. And a big part of it is like, okay, yeah, I've made the thing, it looks good, and maybe it looks good in a photo, but like, what about usability? Like walking around in it, doing different stuff in it? Does it feel comfortable still? Because you don't really notice that something isn't as good as like maybe it could be until you're out wearing it and like doing different, activities in it. And then you're like, oh, maybe I need to fix this, maybe I need to fix that. So I think it's cool that you spent a lot of time kind of perfecting it and making it good and that you'll put it out when the time is right.
Exactly. And I want to do that. I really want to do that more. But then you get into the like, oh, this is my livelihood. So I need to like be a little
Mhm.
faster and how I put some stuff out. But not too fast, but a little faster. But yeah, there is a good balance. And this shirt, I think, really showed me how to take my time and really sit with something. Because like I'm like, oh, I need to drop the hem by an inch because I have a really
Mhm.
short torso, and the average man does not. So this is gonna
Right,
sit a little bit higher on them than me, and that's not what
right.
I want. So even just like noticing things like that has been really cool.
As another tangent, I'm really curious because you are a man making sewing patterns, but how do you make a pattern that neutrally fits everybody?
I cannot. I really cannot. Like I have wrapped my brain around that same question. I'm like, oh, how do I do this? And I was like, Brandon, it's not fair. It's not fair to me to put that pressure on myself to try to like get the secret sauce of perfection. It doesn't
Mm,
exist. What I can do
mm,
is create patterns that really feel good to me and then adjust them as I test. So I test with all genders, male, female, and non-binary, and that helps me adjust where things are. But I
mm,
think too, I had to draw a line in the sand early last year of being like, well, I am a men's pattern brand
mhm.
because that is a space in the pattern world that is not occupied and that does not have a lot of good modern
Yes,
day patterns, or
very
it's the
true.
same button up with like three different variations. It's crazy. I'm like, we don't
Mhm.
need another one. We got it. Like truly, give us something good, give us something different.
Yes.
So I think I had to for myself and for just like men in general, even though men don't need more things, but men in general, I'm like, okay, I need to put out patterns that are men focused just so people like me who want to come into the sewing world don't feel
Mhm.
like they have to like piecework all these different patterns together to feel like it'll fit them correctly.
Right. No, I think that's great because, like you said, there aren't a lot of patterns out there that are for men, except for like these very basic ones that it's like, we already have that. We don't need another button down that looks
Yeah.
exactly like all the rest of them. And I think also what's really great about creating patterns that are neutral, or at least, your target audience seems to be neutral, whether it was intended or not. It's great because it just shows like that neutrality. And I think it kind of puts the sewing community in a space that's like, hey, clothing are for people, not
Yes.
for genders or, sexes. Clothing are for people.
Yes, and I
So people.
love that's my biggest mindset, even with like, yes, how I draft and how I express, but even with the skill of sewing, and we might actually get into this into a later question, but like if I saw a pattern, like I used to eat up Daughter Judy patterns, even though they're
Mhm.
made for women.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's really cool about sewing is that you can take a project, take someone else's pattern, you can make it once, whether it's a muslin or not. I don't always make a muslin, but you can make it once and be like, okay, this is great, but I'm going to change this, this, and this. Like I remember after I made the first one, I lengthened. It was the Adam's pant. I lengthened it and I was like, oh, this is perfect now. Like that's why we learn the skill in the first place is to adjust for our specific bodies. I
Yeah.
wasn't like about to email Chelsea. I love Chelsea, by the way.
She's
Let it
great.
let it be on the record. I love Chelsea from Daughter Judy Pattern. She is so amazing and has been such
She
a
is.
great resource for my own pattern journey.
I
Um,
love it.
I just have to say that. Get that off my chest. And but I wasn't emailing her like, oh my God, your pattern was way too short. It did not fit the way it's supposed to. Or your pattern is made for someone with a larger backside than I do. So it didn't fit
Mhm.
me the way I make the changes myself. That's my responsibility as a sewist, or at least that's what I believe personally. That's
Mhm.
my responsibility as a sewist to then adjust it to my body. So making the patterns I make, I always make sure that they're easily adjustable for the sewist to be like, okay, I do like this, but I can add this, this, or change this if I want to. And please do. Once it hits the shelf, it's yours.
That is, yes, I agree. I think that a lot of times we forget that sewing patterns are a blueprint, really.
Yes.
No body is the same. Everybody's body is very different. Now, there are ways to kind of average it out and get close, but nobody's body is the same.
Yeah.
And I like that you're like, hey, I want this style. I'm gonna make it work for me.
hmm
That's
It's
great.
also not that hard. Like, true, like, if you know even just the basics of sewing and you play around, because that's what I
Mm,
loved about getting into sewing in 2018. I didn't go to school for it. I didn't like read books about it. I was just like, there's a system like people discovered this before there was an education behind it. So
mhm.
let's follow that same curiosity and that same experimentation, and you'll get to where you're supposed to be, truly.
Yeah,
And that's with any skill, hobby, or whatever. Like you'll get there when you just really focus and experiment. But sometimes people don't always have the time to do that. But anyway,
I
I'm getting off
agree.
topic.
I think also sometimes maybe there's like a slight barrier of perfection. Like people feel like, oh, if it's not exactly correct or it's not exactly perfect, then I shouldn't try. But I think we kind of have to let go of
Definitely.
perfectionism and all these different things that like hold us back from going towards the things that we want.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's great.
Actually, what's funny, some of my favorite things to wear are samples that have never seen the light
Mm,
of day because I did something wrong or something's not finished all the way, but I will wear that out like anywhere and everywhere. And I'm like, oh, I just love this. And it's because I made it, not because it's perfect or like, I'm not like, oh, it has to stay in my closet because it's messed up. No, I still put it on because I made it with my own two hands and that's what makes it special, not
I love
its
it.
like closeness to perfection.
Agreed, agreed. I heard, I don't remember exactly where I heard this from, but that there are some people who create stuff and they'll actively leave mistakes in. So
Mm.
that way they don't hold on to this idea of like perfectly doing something. And now when I make small mistakes that I'm like, is anybody really truly going to notice this or just am I going to notice it? And if it's just me, I'm like, I need to let it go.
Mhm.
If there are a lot of mistakes, that's a different story. But if it's like, if there's just like one or two little things that I know, like this truly doesn't matter, I'll just allow myself to leave it in so that I can like move past that idea.
Yeah, I love that.
It's great.
Mhm.
So, how would you describe the person that you were and the goals that you had? You kind of touched on this a bit that like it was always going to be like a fashion type of endeavor. You were doing your blog, and then it eventually became, where you're doing your patterns now. Do you feel like between then and between who you are now that you've been able to like sort of accomplish what you set out to do, whether it was 10 years ago or even just a year and a half ago?
I do. I really like who I was then and who I am now. Like even when I did like a 10-year recap on like Happily Dressed the last 10 years and like just watching those really old like those Inception videos and then like some stuff that's happened just in between the time span of 10 years. It's crazy because I'm such a different person but also still the same me. Like some of my mannerisms still in those videos I'm like, "Oh, there he is. I'm still there." Like I think that's really beautiful. Like that whatever those like anchored personality traits that just follow as we get older, it's really cool to see those in the year in between like happily dressed conception and what it is now. But I will say I'm so much more confident is a great word, but it's not just it's like assuredness. Like
Mm,
assuredness in who I'm always becoming. Because like even saying like who I am, like that's forever changing. Like until we hit that grave, who we are is changing, but like who I'm becoming, like that's that constant of like, okay, leaving room for like being dynamic, but also knowing that there's like a like a core that follows. I've gotten a really good like gauge on that part of me. So I love that now because it informs how I create, how I show up on the internet, how sometimes I don't show up on the internet. Like, even though it's my job to exist on the internet, there are moments like I just had maybe like a 3 week span where I was like, I am not posting. I'm so sorry. And my manager's like, oh, consistency. I'm like, yeah, I heard you. I know consistency. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I just don't feel it. Like, and I have to trust that, like, trust that feeling, because that's what stays with me as I continue to grow and evolve. As Happily Dressed continues to grow and evolve, even Field Man, which is my newest endeavor, which we'll get to, but just being able to be assured and like listening to myself and knowing like, yes, when it's time to take a break. And also, even if I'm not taking a break, I don't have to put a window in my workroom all the time and show people what I'm doing. I can just work with the peace of knowing that my work is valued because I'm doing it, not because people are seeing it, liking it, reposting it. And that's been a great exercise to kind of learn over these last 10 years. But yeah, I think from where I started to where I am now, I've definitely seen like tremendous mental growth, but also skill. Like being able to do like there's some days where I wake up and I really pinch myself like I can think of an idea in my head and now I have the tools to actually draft that idea out and make it. And not only can I make it for myself and look pretty damn good in it, I have the skill to also digitize that, put it out, and share that feeling with other people. Like that is so cool. And it's like one of the things that keeps me motivated on putting out patterns because there are moments where I'm just like, I don't have it in me. I can't do this. And I'm like, wait, I'm sharing something bigger than just a pattern. It's this feeling of like being able to dress exactly how you feel and like having your outward appearance match your inward appearance. Like, that's something that we just all strive for in life. And when you can get it, even in these small moments, it's otherworldly. So I think that that's been just super cool knowing that I have a skill that allows people or makes it more accessible for people to feel that way is pretty great.
Your energy and passion comes through so strongly. It's very electric and inspiring, and it's awesome to hear, just how you feel about the craft and how you feel about all of the things that you're trying to accomplish. You said a couple of things that I thought were really interesting, and I'm curious about
Yeah.
them. Number one, I remember when you posted those videos of you like 10 years ago and thinking of Happily Dressed and all of those. And I remember your comments on your stories about like just you reminiscing about that time, but also just like the kindness that you had towards your past
Mm,
self. I find that a lot of the time when we look at past things of ourselves, we kind of cringe. We're like,
mm,
ooh, I did that thing. That's so weird. Or, oh, I look like that. Or why did I wear that?
yeah.
Which I think is just a natural reaction to existing. And I think it's okay for cringiness to be a part of the mix. But I also really appreciated just this kindness that you had towards your past self and like the dreams that you had. And yeah, I just wanted to say that again because I thought that was really cool to see.
Thank you. That was so sweet. The first time you said it too, like even you saying that, oh yeah, you did DM it. It's one of you have to like that's me. That's still me. Like even like I want the future me to look back at this me and still have that same compassion. So yeah, you just have to be kind, truly, because we're
Yeah.
always just trying to figure it out.
Yes. Yes. And it also I think speaks to just like this perspective that you seem to have about like accepting change and growth as it comes along and not viewing yourself as like, oh, I didn't know enough then or I wasn't good enough then, but rather, oh, I know more now and I can do better now because of it.
And I
So
have a
it's just like
stronger
a beautiful
muscle
shift.
for reaching out for more knowledge. Like I think we get scared to want to be more than what we are
Mm.
because whether it's like fear or people telling us we can't, but when you exercise that muscle of uncomfortable, and it's very uncomfortable to be a better you, to learn more. Like it's never great. Like you never like, oh yeah, this feels good. It's once you start like ticking off those like accomplishments and those like micro to macro goals where you're like, oh, I'm doing it. Like I'm doing it great. Like I always try to make sure I'm in a learner's mindset. Like I'm never like, oh yep, figured it out, got this whole industry figured out. Nope, never. It's more like, okay, what works for me? And then how can I expand on that? Or even like the goals I have, okay, they're getting bigger. What what tools now do I need in my toolbox to aid that expansion?
Yeah, yeah. I love it. That's so great. So you were talking about Fieldman, your new brand endeavor. So exciting to see. I also just like loved for anybody that doesn't know about Fieldman, please go check it out and follow Brandon on there.
Please.
Just seeing kind of like your inspiration, like what you want this to be, was really beautiful and really cool
Thank
to
you.
see. So can you just tell me a little bit about the brand? Tell the listeners about the brand, what your goals are for it, and how it's maybe different or similar to Happily Dressed.
Definitely. What's crazy is that when I first started sewing, I was like, I'm never gonna start my own brand. Like real estate's expensive. Like I'm good. Like I'm gonna just sell the pattern, so I don't have to make anything. I don't want to do it. And I actually did a different podcast with, it was the Love to Sew podcast with, oh my God, Caroline and um, Helen. There we go. Oh my, it's like the pressure of like, oh, I know everyone's name. I swear to God, I
Exactly.
do. Um, and in that podcast, they were like, Brandon, it seems like a lot of stuff that you say no to ends up working out, like sewing, the half pint harness, etc. I was like, wow, you're so right. Am I holding myself back? So after
Mm.
that interview, oh my God, it was like a good 4 days where I was just like, what am I holding myself back from because of how easily I love saying no. How easily I say no. I love a boundary. I do. I'll give one immediately and be like, hell yeah, I said that. And I
I
meant it.
love it.
I meant it. But then there's moments where I'm like, oh wait, sometimes those can get in my own way. And so I think having a clothing brand was one of those things I started to rethink. And I was like, well, why don't I want a clothing brand? I was like, because I don't want to be at the whims of everyone else. I was like, well, that's more of like a seamstress, not a designer, because people come to you for your specific items. I'm like, oh, yeah, duh. And then I get to have this creative freedom of like making things that are really, really cool. And so from there, that kind of started the birth of Field Man. And it wasn't until like end of January, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this. I don't know what it's gonna look like. I really don't, but this is something I want to do. And then slowly but surely between January and now, it's kind of morphed into what it is now, which is this dedication to like I always say my grandma's dad, because I know my grandma's dad was a slave, a field man, so to speak.
Mm.
And I hate to say the word ancestor because that makes it seem like it was like way long ago. That's less than 200 years. Like
Yep.
my grandma's dad is less than 200 years ago that he was working in a
Mm.
field picking cotton, not being paid appropriately for it, not being treated well at all. Some would argue we're still not being treated well. But I think that for me, this brand started to be a remembrance of them and their passions and their dreams that they didn't get to live out, and also kind of like reparational in the fact that I can use the same natural fiber. I love 100% cotton items. Like I love workwear. All the denim I use is 100% cotton. I can take this natural fiber that um, my family for generations have been exploited to produce and make
Mhm.
money from it, and not only make money from it, but have it be a medium of my own creative expression. Like I kind of get like the best of both worlds. And so with that, Field Man has just kind of transformed into this playground for me to create patterns and like do things I love, like drafting patterns that are gonna last and that I feel, if I'm not gonna feel happy making it all the time, I better feel prideful in the fact that I took my time really drafting these things out to be able to sew them over and over and over again. Like I think there's like a discipline and a craftsmanship that comes with making something over and over and over again that we just don't do anymore because we have
Mhm.
facilities now that'll like make things in a snap, truly. And so Fieldman also has become a place for me to divest from instant gratification. Like the jacket that I've been posting over like the last 4 months, I have been like redrafting every time I saw a sample. I draft a new one. I'm like, yeah, or I play around with the existing pattern. I don't draft a whole new one, but I'm like just tweaking things left and right because I'm like, if I'm gonna make this over and over again, I need it to be something that is as efficient as possible. And so that's been really cool to do too. But anyway, Field Man is my newest endeavor of just releasing clothes in a very slow fashion way. Um,
Mm.
Even to the fact where it might be like 1 to 2 pieces a year max, and just like keeping the silhouette but changing the material, so like changing the fabric type. But yeah, it's all an experiment, but it all feels so good and right on time. And so I'm just letting it like I'm letting it expand to what it wants to be.
That's beautiful and amazing. I love that because I was calling it Fieldman in my head, but I love the emphasis on Field Man.
Yeah. Well, it's funny.
Um,
I was also calling it Fieldman when I first started because I mean it just makes more sense. Like even though it's not a plural title, and for those who
mhm,
don't know, you can follow it at Fieldman Clothing. But I think when I say it fast like that, Fieldman Clothing, it's just easier to say that. But when I
mhm,
talk about it as something I'm really passionate about, I do just say Field Man because that's what it is. It's Field Man, and that's what
mhm.
it's kind of derived from is a field man and like how they used to pick cotton, etc. And it's funny too because I also would avoid saying field man. I was like, that just sounds weird, but now I love it. I love
I love it too. I love
it.
the idea behind it and just like the history as well behind,
Thank you.
creating this brand. So I'm curious, like, so you're starting this brand where you are making the pieces yourself and then selling those in a slow way. And I love that. That's great. I think there's also a piece that comes with um, just like redoing things,
Mhm.
So I think that's amazing. I'm sure it will be great for you. I'm also curious, do you plan to, like, put out the patterns that you use for your pieces, or, like, are you just, like, keeping those 2 things different, like, separate? Are you having happily dressed patterns and then field man patterns are just for the business? Like,
Mhm.
what's your idea with that?
So I do want separation between happily dressed and field man. I mean, they are of the same parent, basically, so it's hard to truly separate them. But I think anything I create and put out with field man will not be available as a pattern.
Mm,
I think there will be some times where there's a special occasion, I think, because even with a brand that I love so much, or that I've looked to so much for inspiration for Field Man, is Painter Jacket. They release 4 items a year, just four
yes.
items a year. And it's very limited quantity, so they're not making excess. They do manufacture, which I mean, I'm gonna never say never when it comes to manufacturing, but in the beginning, I think um, making these pieces with my own 2 hands just really completes a circle that I want to. But they do such a great job on really pushing that like emphasis on slow fashion and only getting material that you'll keep in your closet forever. But I bring them up because they released a pattern for one of their jackets through Merchant and Mills. And I like
Mm.
that. I really did. I liked it. So I'll never say never, but for right now, Happily Dressed would be where you can get sewing patterns from me. Field Man is where you can get kind of like the art of like the brain behind Happily Dressed, basically.
Right. That makes sense. I'm curious because I sometimes struggle with like, I sew, knit, and crochet on my platform, and I take stints where I'm like, I'm just sewing, I'm just crocheting, I'm just knitting, and I'll just bounce around depending on how I feel. Um, as a creative person, how do you feel like you'll be able to manage, or maybe you won't feel like you need to manage it, but the difference between your two different brands, where it's like, how do you produce content and patterns and you know clothing pieces, how do you feel like you'll be able to manage both?
I take that day to day. I really do. Because I know when things want to be created and born. I don't always know how I can juggle them all, but I will say that when it comes to creating content, the content's always been centered around what I'm passionate about. So that'll never change. Like even with Happily Dressed, I can still post a reel about how I'm drafting something for Field Man, and that feels good to me. Like I'm okay with that. Like
Mm,
I'm okay with them mixing in that way. Um, but also too, the big answer to that is just more money because more money means I can hire people to do the things that like I can start to delegate. And I would love to delegate, especially because Field Man, even though it's a very exciting endeavor, it's not going to be making me money. Like I know that, for at least
mm,
in its inception, because of how slow I want to create these things, there is no, and like with how fast the world works now, there truly is no like profit margin for that. Like
mhm,
it's my creative endeavor for craftsmanship and a
mm,
story. Like that's what it's rich in. It's not rich in profit. And I'm not expecting it to be rich in profit. But because of that, I need Happily Dressed to be rich in profit. So all in all, I think the balance will work itself out in the sense of like, oh, okay, yes, I can focus on field man, but also happily dressed is what allows me to focus on field man. So I'm like, okay, yeah, it's time to focus on some patterns this month and then go back to just creating for the art of creating.
I love that so much. That's so great. So, just speaking on just being a pattern maker, now trying out this fashion designing, slow sewing endeavor, you've really accomplished a lot in a short period of time, and it's really amazing to see like all the things that you've done. Something I'm curious about because there was some criticism in the sewing community some months ago about people becoming pattern makers without formal training or a lot of years of sewing experience. What are your thoughts on that criticism? Do you think it holds any weight, or do you think it's possibly another system of exclusivity?
So I think in those moments, because I do remember that whole discourse, and I'm so glad I was not a part of it. Period. Like, there are some moments where being a man in the pattern making space really does kind of like shield me from some of the craziness that happens. I'm just like, thank God, don't look over here, because I'm also not formally trained. I took Victoria's course, which is a 3-month course, and I loved that course. And I do recommend it. It was extremely helpful to me. Um, but I will say, like, what's crazy about that, I'll answer your question, but I think what also is crazy about that is that there are pattern makers out there like Chelsea from Daughter Judy Patterns who did go to school for it, but she's still under constant criticism in general. Like, she's one of the pattern makers that are like under criticism the most, which is so crazy to me because Chelsea is such a beautiful and kind human being,
Mhm.
and extremely knowledgeable about fit and everything. Like, her patterns to me are just like top tier with fit and like every body type in mind. She really does do such a great job. Even having separate like size charts and separate grading charts for different people. Like, she really does do it all. And yet people have every reason for whatever their personal reason is to criticize some of that external thing, like outward things she does. But when it comes to what she does with the brand and behind the brand to make sure that she's releasing the most optimal product, no one's doing it like her. Truly, no one's doing it like her. And yet she's still under criticism. So I say all of
Mhm.
that to say that I do believe, like, to it's I think it's everyone's personal responsibility to interact with a pattern designer the way they want to. If they don't want to interact with that pattern designer because of education, go for it. If they tried out their patterns and like, oh, it doesn't fit really well, then don't sew it. But also, I do think that we're all just out here trying to learn and perfect a craft that has been put behind a paywall when it comes to education, like going to school for fashion design, especially because, like, even getting into the ethos of why people go to fashion design school now in the era of influencer and celebrity stylist and celebrity designer creating products that are even more unaffordable than the schooling is for it, to do it like ethically and in a way that isn't expensive, sometimes you just have to learn through YouTube. Sometimes you have to learn through other people. And I think that that kind of education is still worthy of being able to put together a brand that you wholeheartedly believe in. And will you make more mistakes? Maybe, yes. Do you have to be more flexible and malleable when it comes to criticism and how people interact with your goods? Definitely. But I do think having like an immediate negative reaction to someone who hasn't been to school for it is probably not the one I'd have personally. Especially because a lot of these up and coming pattern makers, including myself, aren't really releasing crazy complicated things. Like, it isn't something to where you're like, this has 5 days, 3 pleats, and you have to learn how to, like, we're not doing any of that. Like, it's almost like it's like community building, and it's like we're learning from each other. Like, we are trying to combine our knowledge together through pattern maker and testers and other indie pattern makers to kind of build this new education that's more accessible and more affordable for people. And I think that that's a good thing. I think that'll always be a good thing. So, but I also am in the realm of everyone can believe, like, opinions are just that. everyone's allowed to have them, so believe what you want to. Um, but like when it comes to like the negativity and like the rudeness, just keep that away from happily dressed and the people that I root for and support, which also is daughter Judy patterns. But yeah, so that I think that's my take. Hopefully, I answered. I kind of jumped around. Hopefully, I answered that in a good way.
No, that's great. Yes, you did. I agree. I think that we look at people who have been formally trained, and our natural instinct, unfortunately, is to assume that, oh, if you've gone to school, you immediately know what you're doing. That ain't true. That's the
No.
furthest thing from the truth. As a person that has gone to school, not for sewing or pattern making, I mean, I try to, but that's a whole other thing. Um, as a person that has gone to school and has known people that have gone to school for things, a lot of times people go to school and they don't even use those skills, and skills can dwindle, if you don't practice them, if you don't put in the personal effort to make them what you want them to be. It doesn't matter if you sat in a classroom and someone told you, hey, this is the standard and this is what you should be doing. If you yourself aren't putting in the practice, the fact that you went to school and paid a bunch of money to do it doesn't make you any better off than somebody that has like spent however long it is. What if somebody spent like a whole year just dedicating their entire working hours to learning something?
Which is
Okay,
how the education system came about in the first place.
exactly. So it's like, why is personal study and personal interest in like learning something considered less than going to school and paying somebody to force you to sit in a classroom and pay attention to them? I will say that sometimes you even go to a school and they may not even be totally caught up on what the standard is in the industry, anyways. So I don't think that we can totally put, oh, if you didn't go to school, that's like your barrier to entry. That tends to be what it is. And there's a lot of people doing it big that have never touched a university campus in their lives.
Yeah. And
So,
I'm a big fan of like learning under someone, like apprenticeship,
mhm.
and being in conversation with that skill every day. Like I'm in conversation with sewing every single day. Like literally, there's not a day I don't wake up and don't do anything related to sewing. That's far and few in between in my life, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I truly feel very in tune with this skill. Like I love sewing so much. Um, but like I said, and like you said too, that personal study is how the educational system even came to be. Like it's always personal first, then it's structure. Like same with religion. It's the reason we have structured religion is because personal religion exists. And then a lot of
Mhm.
people got together who had the same personal religion. Like it's the same with any kind of information that just exists in the world. So yeah, I do think that that barrier of like, oh, well, they didn't go to school for it. I mean, I would like tread lightly, but I think still like giving them the time of day. I'm like, oh yeah, let me see what this. Oh, this works out actually pretty well. I actually really like this. Cool.
Yeah,
That's good.
I agree. And I also think that people having this perspective that you have to go to school to accomplish your goals,
Mhm.
one again, it puts that barrier, but it also kind of eliminates maybe our respect or trust of somebody if they don't have this piece of paper that said, hey, I sat in a classroom for 4 years and did this thing. There's one new pattern maker that is very inspiring to me, Tiana Herring. I don't know if you.
Yes.
Yes.
The juniper dress, right?
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And the jumpsuit that she just came out with as well. Her particular story is beautiful to me because it's like she, before doing the course with Victoria, had been sewing for 1 year,
Mhm.
just one, and look at what she's accomplished.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see that, like, if you are willing to put in the time and the study, and you have the confidence and the drive, even if you don't have the confidence, if you just have like the motivation to push forward with your dreams, you can make them happen. And I really want people to remember that, like, you don't have to have formal training in anything to like make your
Anything.
dreams happen. Yeah.
Big time. Like I like that piece of paper is what we strive for now. Like we live in such an external world. That piece of paper means absolutely nothing. It's like what you learned to get that piece of paper is where the juice is, and we don't even focus on that anymore. Like we're just like,
Mhm.
oh, how can I get through this class? How can I get through this class? Oh, I just want to just get my degree, etc. Um, but like I am in the type of mindset to where like, no, I want to know like where this started from, and even like being in personal conversation with the skill or the information, that's where true knowledge comes from because you're experimenting with it in your everyday life. Like seeing how she like experiments with her silhouettes and like tries new things, like that is the kind of pattern maker I want because I see that they're
Mm-hmm.
putting in the effort to really make this not only right for them, but then right for everyone else because they've taken the time to really explore how everything looks and feels. And I love her in the plus size community putting out these patterns that really help people. Like, I love her jumpsuit, express the way they feel. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
love seeing that. It's very beautiful.
I 1,000% agree.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to social media and sharing your brand, patterns, and creative process, do you ever find yourself experiencing imposter syndrome or questioning why you create? If you do, how do you manage that?
So definitely, like I would be lying if I'm like, no, like I just wake up and post and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to put out today. Um, I think I talked about earlier a stint where I didn't post for like 3 weeks, and that was just because I was like, "What's the point? Truly, what's the
Mm.
point? I'm so over this. Like, what is the point? Why am I doing this? Like, is this what I can? Is being online what I want to continue to do to help make my money? Because obviously I sell patterns, but to sell patterns and do well, you have to be online, whether that's as an influencer or just like a public a business facing entity that like just shows up. It took me a long time to get back to why I post, and I think I had to just remember like the joy of what I do.
Mm.
Like and start doing things in a way that's really joyous. It's like, okay, let me stop trying to create a pattern for pattern's sake to make money and let me start creating again. Like sometimes we have to give ourselves permission to just play, which is crazy because I started in this skill set industry playing and that's what made it so popular. So I had to just go back to that. I'm like, oh, I can just like mess around. Like nothing because I have this thing to where every time I am in the studio, I mean, I wish I was in the studio today, but I had some things to do earlier today. So I was like, I'm just gonna stop by this place that I'm at right now. But there were moments where I'm like, oh, if it's not gonna make me money, I can't do it in here. Like I need to be in here doing things that make me money because this is my job now. And I just had to stop. I was like, no, that's not how this job was created. It was created by being playful, having fun. Even a few days ago, I was just like on Pinterest and just sketching out little fun ideas of what I wanted to make for my own personal wardrobe. And I was like, oh, that'd make a great pattern. Oh, that'd make a great pattern too. So it almost, I felt the spark come back of like, oh, I'm too serious. Like I'm taking this way too seriously. Like I need to calm down, breathe, and like start playing again. So I think that's what really helped me come back to the internet in a way that felt more authentic to me and just sharing my personal experience with this skill instead of trying to push a product.
Mm. Yes, I totally get you. I think that just in the nature of social media and also, being your own boss, there is like this perspective of like if I'm not doing something that's making me money, I'm not doing it right. But
Yeah.
I think also just having this sense of play and joy with the craft, sometimes that is taken away a little bit. I found myself feeling the exact same way where I'm like, oh, because I'm trying to build my platforms, like I need to be like focusing on things that like will get the views and all this stuff. And I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that.
No, no, we can't. That's when we lose. But it takes a personal experience with it because I have been here like 3 or 4 times and like,
Mhm.
how have I not learned? It is not about what other people want to see. It's about what I want to share with the world.
And that people can feel the difference between creating for creating's sake and also creating because you're excited about this thing that you want to explore. Or, I mean, that was the real for me that like skyrocketed my page and like blew up and I got those, million views because I was like, oh, I want to try this thing and this seems fun. And I just like put it together and
Yeah.
then I put it out and then boom. But I was being authentically myself.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we forget that because social media is this like highlight reel that we forget, hey, I can also just be myself. My even in my highlight, I can just be myself.
Exactly. Even in my craziness, even in my unpreparedness or like not well, like, oh, I didn't sew this well, but whatever. Here, this is
Because
what
it's
I'm about.
real.
Yeah.
It's real. So, what motivates you then to continue creating and to continue putting out patterns and social media and starting with your new brand? What keeps that motivation going, even in times of like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this or I don't feel motivated? How do you
Mhm.
maintain that?
I think one, a commitment to it. So like I am ride or die for happily dressed and filled man clothing. Like 100%. Like we are in this life together. They will never be dropped. And so in those moments where I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, okay, well, I know for a fact that happily dressed is something that's going to be with me for a while, for most of my life. I know Field Man is also something I want to be with me for the rest of my life. So how am I connecting with these? Like, where's the disconnect? Like, how am I using these in a way where I don't feel connected to them anymore? Because I am intrinsically connected to these things because they are of me. So
Mhm.
I have to like sometimes recalibrate the ways in which I'm connecting into Happily Dressed and Field Man. And then secondly, I've really found out, and this is gonna sound so just like on paper, but I have to have big goals. It's like, okay, I want to buy my mom a house. Like, I want to be able to
Mhm.
like have financial freedom and not stress every day that bills are getting paid. So, get up. Let's time to make some money. Get up. And like, what a joy and what a like a gift it is to make money in this way. So,
Mhm.
I think sometimes I just need like that real reality check of like, okay, Brandon, you also don't want to be like counting pennies to make sure. So like, let's start putting things out there. So I have a mix of both. Like I think intuitive motivation of knowing like these are supposed to be my vehicles in life. I know that. So let me change the way in which I connect to them. And then I have the more like tangible, physical motivations of like goals. Like, I want to be able to take my family on vacation one day and everyone just feel calm. Like no one's like, we paid so much money to be here. Or it's like, oh no, we get to just relax. Like I think people don't realize, especially growing up as a minority, whether that's in race, gender, or sexuality, you don't have the freedom to just like relax sometimes. Like it wasn't until Happily Dressed was doing really good last year where I realized I was like, oh my God, I was so stressed before this, like making sure like all my bills are paid. I didn't even realize the weight that was on my shoulders until it was
Mhm.
gone. And so I think that's also kind of a motivating factor for me to not only make that a constant for me, because it's like this, it's not always a constant in this industry, but then also getting it to where it's good enough to share like with the people closest to me, like my family and my friends.
That's beautiful. And yeah, I think that is a nice cherry on top to just like your entire brand, your vibe, just like who you are and how you express yourself on the internet and on a podcast and sort
Yeah.
of person.
I will say
um,
podcasts too are my favorite. Like I always like have such revelations when I'm on podcast. I'm like, dang, I really do think that, don't I? That's good. I need to keep that in here. So I
isn't it
love
funny?
a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, when things are prompted, you're like, wait, that's how I feel about that. I didn't realize it.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love it. And I so appreciate you being here and just sharing more about who you are and just like what your goals are. And I'm so excited to see all the things that you accomplish going forward because you've accomplished so much already. So it's only up from here.
For the both of us. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for even having me. Like the moment you messaged me about this, I was like, yes, I'd love to. Yes, 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 please. So I'm glad we got to connect in this way.
Likewise. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening to the Stitch by podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, another one drops next month. To be updated on upcoming guests and topics, visit stitchedbypodcast.com and find me on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at Stitched by Podcast. I want to thank my guest Brandon for joining me on today's episode. Find Brandon on Instagram at Happily Dressed and Filled Man Clothing and on his Etsy for his patterns at Happily Dressed LLC. You can also find his tutorials at Happily Dressed on YouTube. I'm your host, Ari at Stitched by Ari, signing off for now.